The alien council, triumphant and arrogant, believes their invasion of Earth will be easy. They've successfully infiltrated humanity's communications, believing that Earth's silence means submission. But when Earth speaks, it does so with a power that shatters the alien fleet's confidence and changes the course of history forever. The alien council was confident. Too confident. For centuries, they had swept across the galaxy, conquering planets and subjugating species with ease. Earth, they had assumed, was nothing more than a forgotten backwater, ripe for the picking. Its silence had been misinterpreted as weakness, a sign of surrender. The aliens had been watching for years, planning their move, sure that humanity's primitive technology and lack of galactic power would make them an easy conquest. Now, the council sat in their massive chamber, their eyes fixed on the holographic displays of Earth's atmospheric data. The invasion was about to begin. "Prepare the fleet," the leader of the council said, his voice cold and commanding. "We will crush them, as we have done countless times before. Their silence is the final proof. They will not fight." The council members nodded, each one assured of their superiority. "Earth is ripe for the taking," one of them commented, looking at the display that showed Earth's defense systems, primitive, vulnerable. The invasion would be swift. The planet would fall. They had underestimated the humans, but they didn't care. The fleet was already mobilizing. As the final preparations were made, the council leader stood, his voice firm. "We will show them the might of our empire. This will be over in mere days. No resistance will rise." But then, something happened. As the alien fleet moved toward Earth, the communications link from the human defense network suddenly flickered to life, and the voice that spoke was unlike anything the council had expected. "This is Earth," the voice said, calm, measured, but with a steel edge. "You've made a mistake, one you will regret." The council members froze. The words echoed in the chamber, cutting through the arrogance like a blade. The voice was direct, confident. The humans, Earth, had spoken. For a moment, there was stunned silence. The council had expected silence from the humans, not a direct message, not a declaration. The alien leader's eyes widened. "What is this? Who dares—" Before he could finish, a sharp crackle filled the room, and a blinding light appeared on the holographic screen. The display shifted, revealing a massive warship rising from Earth's surface, far larger and more powerful than any of the alien fleet's ships. The leader's heart sank. "Impossible! They have no ship of this size." Another council member gasped. That's no ordinary ship. It's enormous, and its power signature. This is beyond anything we have." The warship, dark and imposing, shot out from the planet's surface like a colossal beast emerging from the depths of the sea. It was a leviathan of war, its hull bristling with weapons and shields, unlike anything the council had ever encountered. Earth had been hiding something they had never imagined. "Activate full shields," the leader shouted, his voice laced with panic. "Prepare to engage. Prepare for everything." But it was already too late. The Leviathan's weapons powered up, and with a single blast, it tore through the first wave of alien ships, sending massive explosions across the battlefield. The first shot was so powerful, it staggered the entire alien fleet. The council watched helplessly as their ships, supposed to be the pinnacle of military technology, were obliterated in a matter of seconds. "What is this?" One of the council members shouted, his voice filled with horror. "We've lost contact with half the fleet." The leader stood motionless, his mind racing. They had underestimated Earth. Worse, this wasn't just a response to their attack. This was a declaration of war. Earth had spoken, and it was clear now that humanity had been hiding a weapon of unimaginable power. They had been silent for far too long, waiting for the moment when they could strike back, and now that moment had arrived. The aliens tried to regain control, but their ships were no match for the human Leviathan. Earth was no longer the quiet, passive planet they had thought it was. It was a power, a force, a rival empire. The council leaders' face twisted in rage and disbelief. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. On Earth, the response was swift. The human military had mobilized, and the planet's defense systems roared to life. Humanity had been preparing for this day. The day when they would rise from their silence. Commander Jackson stood at the helm of the human warship, his eyes locked on the chaos unfolding on the alien screens. "Let them come," Jackson said, quietly. "We've been waiting for this moment," and as the alien fleet reeled, Earth's warship fired again, sending shockwaves through space. The Council's arrogance had been their undoing. The alien fleet, though shattered, was not entirely defeated. The remnants of their forces, while crippled, still held an unyielding determination. They regrouped in the far reaches of space, their communications now secured after the chaos unleashed by Earth's defense system. The fleet leader, still seething with disbelief, clenched his fists as he looked over the damage. "We've underestimated them," the fleet leader muttered, his voice low but sharp. "We were fools. Earth has technology we can't even begin to understand." One of the senior commanders, his face pale and dripping with sweat, turned to the leader. "We've lost half the fleet. Our weapons are ineffective against them. That warship, the one they unleashed, its power signature is unlike anything we've ever encountered." The fleet leader's eyes narrowed. "They've been preparing. This wasn't an accident. Earth wasn't just hiding in silence. They were planning something." A younger officer, clearly shaken, looked toward the screen. "What do we do now? We've lost contact with half of our remaining fleet. The other ships are damaged beyond repair. We're sitting ducks out here." "Not yet," the fleet leader snapped, his mind working through their options. "We'll strike back, prepare the remaining fleet to engage Earth's warship. We'll tear through their defenses and force them to submit." Despite the leader's words, there was a quiet sense of desperation in his tone. The aliens had expected Earth to be a simple target, one they could easily subjugate, but now they were facing a power that had not only withstood their initial assault, but had retaliated with unimaginable strength. The leader straightened. "We must regain control. The galaxy must know that we are still the dominant force." Back on Earth, Commander Jackson stood in the heart of the human warship's command center. The Leviathan, humanity's ultimate weapon, was positioned strategically above Earth's atmosphere, its vast form still hovering ominously. Earth had struck back with brutal force, but Jackson knew the fight was far from over. The alien fleet may have been shattered, but they were not without resources. The battle had only begun. "Lieutenant Daniels, status update," Jackson ordered, his voice steady despite the intensity of the situation. Daniels glanced at the screen, her face tight with concentration. "The alien fleet has begun regrouping. They're patching together what's left of their forces. We've intercepted communications. They're preparing for another assault." Jackson's jaw clenched. "Not good enough. We can't let them come at us again. Deploy all remaining warships. I want full force." "We'll be outnumbered, sir," Daniels warned. "Even with their fleet in disarray, we don't have the resources to take them on head-to-head for much longer." Jackson's eyes flickered across the holographic battlefield display. The alien fleet was regrouping, but Earth's warships, though fewer in number, had a strength the aliens could not anticipate. Their new weapons, derived from Earth's advanced tech, were nothing short of devastating. Humanity had learned to use its silence as a shield, but now it had learned how to strike back with precision. "We're not going to fight them head-to-head," Jackson said, his voice hard. "We're going to cripple their systems. Let's put them on the back foot, focus on their weak points, their command ships, their propulsion systems. We're not here to crush them outright. We're here to make them fear us." As Jackson's orders went out, the crew of the warship prepared for what would be the most crucial phase of the battle. Earth would not be a passive player in this conflict. They would press their advantage and show the galaxy that Earth's silence had been more than just waiting. It had been preparation. And now, the aliens would understand the cost of underestimating humanity. Meanwhile, the alien fleet was already moving into position. Despite their losses, the remaining ships were determined to strike back. The alien fleet leader had spent years establishing their empire, expanding their influence across countless star systems. Earth's resistance had been unexpected, but it was not enough to break their resolve. "We cannot retreat," the fleet leader growled. "We must destroy them before their arrogance spreads further. If they think they can stand against us and survive, we will show them the cost of defiance." The remaining ships, while damaged, were still equipped with formidable weapons. But their cohesion was faltering. The lack of communication and coordination among the ships had become a major weakness. The alien leader knew that without a unified effort their fleet would fall apart again, but they had no choice. Retreat was not an option. "We launch now," the leader ordered. "They won't know what hit them." As the alien fleet prepared for its counterattack, the humans made their final adjustments. Earth's warships, now fully deployed, were scattered throughout their defense grid. The Leviathan, Earth's ultimate weapon, still hovered above the battlefield, its weapons powered and ready. It was the final piece of humanity's plan, one that would make the galaxy take notice. "We're ready, sir," Daniel said, her voice steady with resolve. Jackson nodded. "Then let's make sure they understand Earth's power." The battle erupted once again, the dark expanse of space illuminated by the firepower of both sides. The alien fleet moved to engage, but humanity's warships had already initiated the first wave of attacks. The humans were no longer on the defensive. They were making the aliens fight on their terms. For every alien ship that fell, Earth's warships tightened their grip. The Leviathan unleashed a final barrage, sending shockwaves through the alien lines. The alien fleet, once so sure of its superiority, was now in retreat, scrambling to escape the overwhelming force of Earth's counterattack. And just as the last of the alien ships fled, Jackson stood at the helm, watching the stars. "Let them run," Jackson muttered. "We've sent our message." The once mighty alien fleet was in retreat, its remnants scattered across the stars. What had begun as a conquest, an invasion of Earth to expand their empire, had now turned into a desperate flight for survival. The alien ships, once proud and imposing, were now nothing more than damaged hulks, struggling to stay operational as they limped back into the cold void of space. In the command center of the alien flagship, the fleet leader stood, staring at the flashing screens. His empire was in ruins, and all because they had underestimated a simple, seemingly insignificant species, humans. "This is a disaster," the fleet leader muttered, pacing back and forth. His normally composed demeanor was gone, replaced by a palpable frustration and fear. "We thought Earth was weak, just a primitive planet, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. But their response—" He stopped, clenching his fists. "It was beyond anything we could have anticipated." One of the senior officers looked up from the console, her face grim. "We've lost nearly half of our fleet. The humans' warship, the Leviathan, is like nothing we've ever seen. Their defense grid, their drones, they were all far more advanced than we were led to believe." The fleet leader slammed his fist against the console, a rare display of emotion. "I want answers. Why didn't we detect this? Why didn't our intelligence tell us they were capable of this?" "There was no sign of such advanced technology in their systems," the officer replied, a mixture of fear and frustration in her voice. "We believed their silence was an indication of weakness, of surrender. We never expected them to fight back, let alone with such overwhelming force." The fleet leader turned away from the officer, his back tense. He had never experienced failure like this before. Their empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, crushed rebellions, and crushed species that dared to defy them. Yet Earth had brought Them to their knees. Their technology, how is it possible, he whispered to himself. How did they hide such power? Back on Earth, Commander Jackson stood at the helm of the command center, watching as the remnants of the alien fleet retreated. The battle had been long, but it was clear now that humanity had not only survived, but had proven its strength in ways no one could have predicted. The Leviathan, Earth's most advanced warship, still stood proudly over the battlefield, its weapons powered down, awaiting the next command. "We've sent them a message," Jackson said quietly, turning to Lieutenant Daniels, who stood nearby. "But the war isn't over. They'll regroup. They'll come back. We've just bought ourselves some time." Daniels nodded, her expression serious. "They're not finished, sir, but we've shown them we're not going down without a fight. We've made it clear that Earth is not an easy target." Jackson's eyes narrowed as he stared at the screens showing the alien fleet's retreat. "They thought they could take us out in a few days, but they didn't count on us being ready. We're not just a primitive species anymore." He turned toward the window, looking out at the stars. "We've turned the tide. But now we need to make sure they never underestimate us again." On the alien command ship, the council was convening. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air heavy with the weight of their failure. The leader of the council stood at the front of the room, his expression unreadable. "We have lost," the leader said, his voice cold and distant. "We overestimated our superiority. We thought Earth would crumble before us, that their silence was weakness. Instead, they've humiliated us. We've been defeated." The council members were silent, their faces a mixture of disbelief and shame. For centuries, the alien empire had been the most powerful force in the galaxy, crushing anything that stood in their way. Now, a small, seemingly insignificant planet had brought them to their knees. "We cannot let this stand," another council member spoke up, his voice filled with resolve. "We must regroup. We must rebuild. And we must strike back." The leader of the council turned slowly, his gaze piercing. "And how do you suggest we strike back? The humans have already shown us that they are not weak. Their technology is far beyond what we imagined. We cannot underestimate them again. If we attack, now we will only be reinforcing their belief in their own superiority." The room fell into silence once more. The truth was clear. Earth had won, and the alien empire had no easy way of recovering from this blow. "We will wait," the leader said after a long pause, his voice heavy with the weight of his words. "We will rebuild, we will adapt, and we will come back stronger, but we will not strike recklessly. We must learn from this defeat." On Earth, the mood was quieter, more somber. Humanity had won a decisive victory, but the war was far from over. Commander Jackson knew this was only the first step. The alien empire would regroup, rebuild, and strike again. But this time, humanity would be ready. Jackson stood before the assembled council of Earth's military leaders, his voice resolute. "We've proven ourselves today, but we cannot afford to let our guard down. The galaxy is watching, and there are forces out there who will see us as a threat. We must remain vigilant. We must prepare for the next challenge." One of the generals nodded. "We will, but now we have the confidence of knowing that we are not just a target. We are a force to be reckoned with." Jackson's lips twitched into a slight smile. "Exactly, and that is why we will not stop. We've shown the aliens that Earth is not to be underestimated, and now the galaxy will know who we are." As the military leaders gathered around the table, Jackson looked out across the room. Earth had taken its first step onto the galactic stage, and there was no going back. The alien empire had been shattered, but a new era was beginning. Earth's silence had ended, and the galaxy would never be the same again. With the alien empire in retreat, the balance of power in the galaxy has irrevocably shifted. Earth's victory is a beacon of hope for some, a warning for others. As the Alien Council begins its recovery, humanity's place in the galaxy becomes clear. The future of Earth and the galaxy itself will be shaped by the choices humanity makes next. The alien fleet, though battered and broken, had retreated into the depths of space, their once proud warships barely functional. The fearsome empire that had once ruled with an iron fist was now reduced to a scattered remnant, its power fractured, its pride shattered. On Earth, the victory was sweet, but Commander Jackson knew this was just the beginning. Earth had won a battle, but the war was far from over. Jackson stood on the observation deck staring at the distant stars. The once distant and intimidating galaxy now felt different. It was no longer a cold, indifferent expanse. It was a realm that Earth could now shape and control. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't, Jackson muttered, the words echoing. In his mind, he had seen the arrogance of the alien fleet firsthand, and now that arrogance had been broken. But as satisfying as that victory had been, Earth couldn't afford to bask in it for too long. The galaxy was vast, and there were others who would see Earth's power as a threat. His thoughts were interrupted by Lieutenant Daniels, who entered the room with a file of reports. "Sir, the remaining alien forces have regrouped. They've sent out a signal to other factions, warning them about our capabilities." Jackson nodded, his expression grim. Of course they would. They'll try to rally their allies, build a new strategy, but they'll have to reckon with us now. Daniels hesitated before speaking again. "There are some messages coming in from other systems. Some are asking for alliances. Others, they're less friendly." Jackson glanced at the message screen, his gaze hardening. "Let them come. If they want to test us, we'll be ready." Back on the alien command ship, the council leader sat alone in the command center, the weight of their defeat pressing heavily on him. The rest of the council had scattered to deal with the fallout, but the leader remained, staring at the shattered remains of their empire. Their once mighty fleet had been torn apart by a race they had dismissed as insignificant. "We've been humbled," the leader whispered to himself, his fingers tracing the holographic map of the galaxy. "We underestimated Earth, and now we pay the price." A subordinate entered, bowing low. "Commander, the Council is requesting your presence. They wish to discuss the next steps." The leader stood, his face set with a cold resolve. "Tell them I'll be there shortly." As the subordinate left, the leader looked back at the map, his mind racing. Earth had shown them the power of their silence, their patience, their strategic brilliance. The Empire had always assumed its military might would guarantee victory, but Earth had proven that force alone wasn't enough. "Earth is no longer just a planet," the leader murmured. "It's a force. We will rebuild, but we will never forget this humiliation." Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity began its own recovery. Earth's defenses, bolstered by the unprecedented victory over the alien empire, were now stronger than ever. The war had proven one thing. Earth was not a passive player in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. But that recognition came with its own challenges. The United Earth Council gathered in an emergency session, discussing the aftermath of the alien conflict. Jackson, as the leader of Earth's military efforts, had been called in to advise on their next steps. The alien empire will rebuild, but they know they can't underestimate us anymore, Jackson said, standing at the center of the room, addressing the council. "We've shown them our power, but we can't stop there. We need to secure our future, not just defend ourselves." One of the council members, a seasoned diplomat, nodded. "We've seen the signals from other factions. Some are looking for alliances, some are already calling us a threat. The question now is whether we engage or consolidate." Jackson's voice was firm. "We do both. We engage with those who want peace, but we prepare for those who see us as a threat. Earth needs allies, but we also need to ensure no one dares attack us again." The room fell silent, each member of the council processing the magnitude of Jackson's words. Earth had won a pivotal battle, But now the challenge was to maintain that strength and to navigate the uncertain future of galactic politics. Would Earth stand as a leader in the galaxy, or would other powers, envious and fearful, see Earth's rise as a threat to their dominance? As Earth's leaders discussed their next steps, the alien empire, although broken, was not finished. The council leader knew that the coming years would be critical. They would rebuild their fleet, repair their fractured systems, and regroup. And when they returned, they would have learned from their defeat. For the first time, the alien empire was forced to recognize Earth's power, and that realization would echo throughout the galaxy. As Jackson looked toward the stars, he knew one thing for certain: humanity's silence had ended. The galaxy would never be the same again.